The uncomfortable truth that sometimes our dark side could be our best teacher. In the 11th episode of the 6th season of the Clone Wars animated series, we watched the video or the episode Voices, wherein Yoda is confronted by his own dark side. How could that relate to our personal journey upon the path? Let's answer that in two parts. Excuse me. I appear to have misplaced my environmental controls, and he who is as dainty as a doily must adjust his environment. How can that relate to mindfulness? Well, first, let's start off with brass tacks. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we access our sympathetic nervous system. Now, I want to make sure that that's not obscured by my face. Okay, it's not. The sympathetic nervous system is ensconced within the thoracic region of our spinal cord that corresponds to our rib cage. And it is wired not for active concentration, but instead to merely perceive, and to do so vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. And its functions are summarized with the 12 syllables perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. And that gives you a hint right there where our own dark side is going to be found. Oh, sure, we could notice inert things. We could notice appearances, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. That's seldom troubling. Occasionally, but seldom. What really gets us is our emotions, intentions, thoughts, memories, and imaginings. One of the non-glamorous things about being an adult is that sometimes the toilet gets clogged and we are sent to do battle with porcelain and poop, armed only with snake and plunger, and that is grody. Similarly, as we sit in mindfulness, things could come up that are deeply, deeply disturbing. What are we to do? Well, we have two lines of defense. The first line is this: persist in being vulnerable, passive, visceral, and random. Remember, if you will, the aphorism you may have seen on a t-shirt. Whatever comes, let it come. Whatever stays, let it stay. Whatever goes, let it go. But I promised you a second line of defense, and we're going to call that meditation. So how could this whole learning from the dark side thing relate to meditation? As you probably already recall, every time we exhale, we automatically access our parasympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the lower lumbar region of our spinal cord, corresponding to our pelvis, and the tippy top of the cervical region of the selfsame spinal cord. It evolved to support both physical relaxation as well as mental release. As we explore during the 12 syllables, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. There is a very understandable fear that if when we are confronted with our rage and our terror and our despair and our capacity for cruelty, that if we relax, we will indulge it and it will run amok and make of our lives a disaster movie or a Greek tragedy. However, it's kind of like making love. If any man here has ever had a problem with premature ejaculation or the fear thereof, I'll share with you a tantric trick. As you feel yourself approaching the point of no return, if the point of no return is a 9 on the scale of 1 to 10, as you feel yourself approaching a 5 or a 6, if you notice as you breathe in and you physically relax as you breathe out, you will not go to the place of no return. It's a bizarre phenomena, but one recognized universally. Same thing with rage. When we feel ourselves with rage or terror or despair, if we notice it and then physically relax as best we can, indulging it will become an impossibility. You cannot lose your temper from a place of relaxation. You cannot indulge your terror from a place of relaxation. You cannot indulge despair. You cannot take your own life from a place of relaxation. It is impossible. Fortunately, we do not have to force relaxation. It is already latent within our primal wiring, within our factory-installed programming. All we got to do is make sure that this 3-pound supercomputer between our ears is not getting in the way of our autonomic nervous system's awareness and release. We do that through the cunning use of words, by silently and mentally reciting words in harmony with our inhalation and exhalation, whether those phrases be 12 syllables long or 3 syllables long or 1 syllable long, helps our brain to get out of the way of our spinal cord. I look forward to chanting and meditating with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent more than 8 hours a day, every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and then reverse engineering the techniques and teachings of each sect of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. This evening, we're going to play with Atisha's concise sadhana, or practice text for Green Tara, adapted and amplified by this bloke what sits before you. We're going to begin with energy work that invites a real or imagined energy to coalesce at the crown of our head. We do that through the cunning use of figurative statements. Please chant with me. Please place your hands in the puckered palm position overhead. And oh yeah, by the way, the moment you have a specific question about Buddhist chanting, Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. Now, hands, puckered palm position overhead, let's chant. Lama Drojang, please come to this crown and lavish me with all the attainments, both conventional and ultimate. Lama Drojang, please come to this crown and lavish me with all the attainments, both conventional and ultimate. Lama Drojang, please come to this crown and lavish me with all the attainments, both conventional and ultimate. Having played with our energy, we now are going to perform this evening's first meditative exercise. As children, our first bicycle most likely had training wheels. They were clunky, but they got the job done. Similarly, this evening's first exercise is clunky. During our inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. And during each exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. This is not an affirmation, for we are not dealing with belief. We're not telling ourselves stories about the way we would like things to be. We're telling ourselves truths that help to sweep away the malarkey of bad meditation advice. Let's practice together right now. We're now going to exercise the neural pathways responsible for bodhicitta's empathy or the enthusiasm of refuge. This verbiage is not intended to be a prayer to real or imagined entities. Instead, we are simply using words to exercise our intention, the same way we would use push-ups to exercise our body. Our first recitation is going to be a trifle literal, and we're going to set it to a triplet chant together. May I liberate all beings from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging by relying on thee. Buddha's example, instructions, and students. These three highlighted words are so potent, they've earned the metaphoric nickname of their three wish-fulfilling jewels. For our final version of this same exercise, we're going to practice it or use verbiage that is more concise and more figurative, and this time we're going to set it to the bookend chant, which is pretty much our go-to chant. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. May I liberate all beings by relying on the three jewels. We're going to play with this in a bit from another point of view together. May everyone be free from suffering, may everyone be happy, may no one be separated from the happiness, may everyone have balance from the tyranny of hating, craving, and clinging freed. We're now going to demystify the Buddhist teaching of emptiness. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we notice during our previous inhalation could feel is not graspable as a vast empty void, like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a beautiful cloudless morn, which although compelling to the eye is not graspable to the hand. We're going to summarize that with the Sanskrit phrase Soba Vashuddha Sarva Dharma Soba Vashuddhoham, which translates as all phenomena, including myself, are purified of conventional existence. Everything becomes as non-graspable as emptiness, which is a trifle cryptic. Fortunately, it is elaborated upon in a traditional practice known as the Yoga of Inconceivability, also known as Wisdom's Dance of Impermanence and Interdependence. We're going to begin with the circumstantial. First, we're going to chant a rhetorical question. Then we're going to silently and mentally recite its very concise counterpart. What could it look like if all circumstances or lots blissfully and impermanently melted into rainbow light that interdependently absorbed into this body or form? Now let us bring the physical into the dance of impermanence and interdependence. What could it feel like if all forms or bodies blissfully and impermanently melted into rainbow light that interdependently absorbed into this communication or speech? Now let us bring the experience of the interpersonal into the same dance of impermanence and interdependence. What could it sound like if all interpersonal speech was fully and impermanently melted into rainbow light that interdependently absorbed into this mind? So, if I haven't already made it obvious, the metaphor, so melting is a metaphor of impermanence, and absorption is a metaphor of interdependence, things affecting things, and things affected by things. Let us bring the mental into the dance of impermanence and interdependence. What could it be like if all minds was fully and impermanently melted into rainbow light that interdependently absorbed into our vast empty void? This brings us to this evening's first mantra meditation. During our inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the rhetorical question, how relax into the awareness of this. And this is whatever it comes up, whether that which comes up is external or internal, physical or mental, pleasurable or painful, interesting or boring, glorious or grotesque. As we exhale, we're going to physically relax as best we can while chanting this 10-syllable mantra. Om tare tu tare tu re so 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 ha. Om tare tu tare tu re so 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 ha. Om tare tu tare tu re so 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 ha. Our perceptive inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, notice this. During our releasing exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite, relaxing. And as we inferred during the opening lesson, there will be times when we feel profound resistance to the circumstantial or the physical or the interpersonal or the mental. And when that happens, these 10 different mindfulness labels can help us not to change our experience, but to relax into it, to cease to resist it, and to harness the raw, crackling power of its kinetic energy. Allow me to remind you of what you already may have intuited. Our job is not to perfectionistically seek the optimal label and the optimal amount of time. That's exhausting. When the time is right, we may stumble upon an appropriate label. And the more we swing at it, the better we'll get at it. Life is messy. We were born naked, screaming, covered in goo. Meditation is messy, and it's perfectly appropriate to at times have a rather shallow learning curve. We're now going to do some more energy work, or centering contemplation, which could be described by many terms. You might describe this as Anu Yoga, or Bindu Mahamudra, or Tikle. You can call it Joyce if you want. From the emptiness, let's take two. From the emptiness appears a suitable palm which transforms into a lotus seat. On top of this appears a suitable law which transforms into a moon seed the size of a thumbnail, on which this one appears in the form of the green letter T the size of a mustard seed. Really small. We're now going to contemplate the iconography of the archetype of enlightened activity. We do not do this superstitiously. We do this to help organize the 8 metaphors that are integral to our practice of mantra meditation. Now in the aspect of a green suitable tome light it, that make offerings to all the Buddhas, thus empowering the possibility of benefiting all sentient beings. And so transcending the superstitious and transcending our desire to visualize or believe or emote, or just playing with another way of metaphorically representing interdependence. May the rays then reabsorb into this mind and thus become like the archetype taught out of the rosewood forest. We will explore how we are like Tara during the second half of our mantra meditations. I'm not going to leave you hanging. Not going to leave you twisting in the breeze. Her body is comprised of green light. She has 2 hands and 1 face. Her right hand resting on her right knee is in the giving mudra. Her left hand is at her heart with a ring finger and thumb pressing together, holding the stem of the blue paula flower which blossoms at her left ear, which is reminiscent of the archetype of Milarepa listening to the whispers of the Dharmakaya, the key to all Tertons, the key to the idea of a Tirtan, who is a person who is able to receive teachings as if from nowhere. She is peaceful and smiling and fully matured. She is adorned with all the precious garments and ornaments. Her left foot is tucked in and her right foot is slightly extended. Okay, and now more energy work. This is this subcategory of energy work I like to irreverently refer to as the tantric hand jive, which is not a euphemism for masturbation. So let's hold our hands in front of our forehead. Tara's back rests against a full moon throne. On her forehead is a syllable. Now, we're going to remove the second of 2 metaphoric training wheels and reduce our contemplative exercises from 3 syllables down to 1. During our perceptive inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. And during our releasing exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic verb ease, which functions as a synonym of relax. Transitioning the 10 labels from a 3-syllable format to a 1-syllable format requires a bit of the old poetic license. So when we feel physical experiences, we could label it with the noun form. When we feel emotional experiences, we could label it with the verb feel. When we feel stuck in memory, we can use the preposition then. And when we are stuck in fantasy, we can use the verb dream. At this point, you've probably noticed a pattern: active, chanting, and then the passive practice of mindfulness and meditation. This is a constant that's going to repeat ourselves. We don't first chant and then meditate. We blend the two. Let us place our hands before our throat. On Tara's throat is the syllable. And now, together as a team, let us meditate as transformatively as Princess Leia on Ajahn Kloss under the guidance of Luke Skywalker. Let us place our hands or gesture in front of our sternum. And on Tara's sternum is a syllable. We're now going to play with an exercise to help us transcend the egalitarianism of the fundamental duality of us and them. Awesome Buddhas and crummy you and me. We're going to transcend that with the next idea. What if the Buddhas weren't super special and super far away? What if they were dwelling in every cell of our body, real or imagined, available to guide us whenever we want, reminding us that the teachings are always as close as our own autonomic nervous system? From the sternum whom may light raise emit and invoke all the Buddhas of the 10 directions, each in the form of green Tara. And now the advanced hand jive. We're going to slow this down so we don't lose our minds. And I'm going to move the microphone so I don't smack it 4 times. Om benza samayan zahum bam ho. May all these yadams absorb into oneself. The primary lesson of the body mandala is this, that we have within our own central nervous system everything we need to master the path of mindfulness, the path of meditation, and the path of empathy. Some more energy work. Again, from the seat cerebral honest and may light raise emit and invoke the 5 initiating jhana Buddhas. Now we recite Om Vajrasamaya and make the request. Please, all Buddhas, bestow on me all empowerments. Again, we are transcending the elitism that says, ooh, only special people get special empowerments after jumping through special hoops. No. So, I got to tell you something. I got to be honest. Full disclosure. Sturgeon's Law reminds us that 90% of everything is crap, including meditation teachers. Therefore, it should not surprise us that the majority of meditation teachers think being yang is a great idea. They think it's wonderful to be rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, competitive, cryptic, and cruel. And only a minority think it's a wonderful idea to be flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. I'm of the second group, as are some of my favorite spiritual heroes. As a very young man, the Tibetan saint Zapatul Rinpoche taught elitism and empowerment and all that rigmarole, but as an old man, after a lifetime of teaching and practicing, he taught that empowerment is not necessary. That every master who has ever practiced mantra meditation has inadvertently made sure that every living being received tantric empowerment, whether they knew it or not. That'll make more sense as when we practice the mantra meditation tonight. So I am not some genius or some fiend who's making shit up. I'm just a really lucky fool who stumbled upon teachings and who's now sharing them with you. Together. Then the Tathagata Sayam Sarva Tathagata Abhishika Samaya Shriya. Having spoken thusly, they pour water from a vessel on top of our heads. The water goes throughout our bodies, purifying our bodily defilements. It fills up our bodies to the top of our heads. And then on top of our heads appears a new Menakaya form of Amitabha. And yes, this is an editing opportunity. Oh, everyone loves to watch me edit in real time, he says sarcastically. When death can be a frightening thing. And when some people feel that death is approaching, they will snap their hands overhead as if invoking Amitabha, and then practice this exercise and thereby transcend the neurosis of the inevitable. But don't worry, there are plenty of fearmongers who will make this as difficult as possible. If that's what you desire, you will find people to make it difficult for you. I'm reminded of something a teaching attributed to the late Albert Einstein. Any educated idiot can make things more complicated, more difficult, and more violent. However, it takes a lot of courage and a little bit of genius to move in the opposite direction. So if you want something that is complicated and difficult and violent, you will find people to teach that to you. And if you want things to be easy and transformative and egalitarian, you can find that as well. And I kid you not, there are people who absolutely hate me for teaching, for being a vegan feminist. You know, there was a point when it looked like SSI was going to go away, which is how I live. And I was trying to find a monastery where they preferably spoke English. And I found one, and they said, "We've seen your videos. You are not welcome here." I said, "Well, you know, my SSI could go away, and I could wind up, you know, at the mercy of exposure or starvation." And you know what their response was? "We are entirely comfortable with that." So, just as Rudolph was not allowed to join in all the reindeer games, I too am an outcast llama. I probably misspoke. SSI, because of my disabilities, gives me a monthly stipend. However, I'm also supported by family members and by my tantric partner, without which I would not have the ability to shop or have broadband access and have computer tools necessary for these live streams. So if there's any good I accomplish through these live streams, if there's any such thing as good karma, then it's shared by the many people who assist me. Us disabled folk are the antithesis of rugged individualists. So, in the original text upon which this is based, there is a set of 6 lines in Sanskrit describing offerings. I've adapted them, including both their English translations and generalizing them. In the original version, there were the I think it's the 8 auspicious offerings. And I'm using this version instead, which borrows from the tradition of highest yoga tantra, from the Heruka or Heva. I think it's the Heruka tradition. It's a way of offering not objects but sensory experiences. I do that because I feel that this is more spiritually productive than a traditional ritualistic superstitious approach. This will help us train in the wisdom of awareness and release and harmony with the philosophical teachings of Nagarjuna. Having said that, so let's place our hand gesture in front of our forehead. I offer the experience of wisdom sights appearing it as non-graspable as a void. Shyamatara darshe patisahum soha. Now, let's place our hand gesture, or let's swing our hand gesture from our elbows so that it is in our lap. I offer the experience of wisdom sense fragrant yet as non-graspable as a void. Om Shamatara Gande Patisohum Soha. Let's swing our elbows back up and bring our hand gestures to the place in front of our throats that corresponds to that knot we feel before we cry. I offer the experience of wisdom sounds resounding yet as non-graspable as a void. Om Shamatara Vini Patisohum Soha. We swing our elbows down and place our hand gesture before our navel. I offer the experience of wisdom tastes flavorful yet as non-graspable as a void. Om Shamatara Rase Patisohum Soha. Swing our arms up and hold our hands before our sternum. I offer the experience of wisdom feeling sensual yet as not graspable as a void. Om Shamatara Parshe Patisohum Soha. And lastly, let's bring our hands to the place right before our solar plex, the place halfway between our navel and our sternum. So I'm going to do a quick edit because who doesn't want to watch me edit in real time? I ask you. Okay, so... Oh, darn it. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's go for 255, 103. 255, 103. Okay. And now we're going to hit copy and write for Dharma. Paste, and the screen's going to go nuts. Please bear with me. DHARME, and this is going to be... All right, now I can get it, the display synchronized. Okay, here we go. Gesture before solar plex. I offer the experience of wisdom thoughts lucid yet as not graspable as a void. Om Shamatara Dharme Patisohum Soha. And now we get closer to those 8 mantra meditations I told you of. At one spot on the moon, see there is a green syllable tum, surrounded by the 10 syllables tare tu re so ha. It's not our job to visualize, emote, or believe. To simply chant these words is enough. Welcome to the lazy bastard path of swift enlightenment. Om invokes Tade's courage to Tade's pacification and Turi's increase. Soha supplicates with these may I liberate all. Excuse me. From these syllables may rays of light emit and make offerings to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, thus empowering our ability to benefit all sentient beings. The 2 keys to the wisdom of letting go are impermanence and interdependence. Both are inferred in this passage. Benefiting infers both change and interdependence. May all the powers, blessings, and love of all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas manifest in the form of rays of light, which absorb into the mantra rosary, encircling the hot seed syllable. We now recite the mantra 128 times or as much as possible. So, first we're going to rest the mind. In the future, if the screen goes kerflooey, you are welcome to reach out to me and ask me what's going on. So, quick like a bunny, I think I'm going to adjust the webcam. Okay. May all minds of all beings now be as peaceful and wise as the mind of a Buddha, blossom symbolized by a uncertain city clay or bija mantra. So we take this rather extensive wish and we reduce it to something which is very concise. Why do we use simile and metaphor? Because complex life forms on this planet have evolved to think symbolically. Now that we've grown moderately comfortable with the concise version of this loving wish, during our inhalation, we recite the loving wish, and during the exhalation, we physically relax as best we can while chanting this 10-syllable mantra. Om tare tu nani duri so om dare du nani duri so om dare du nani duri so om dare du nani duri so ha. Om tare du nani duri so om dare du nani duri so om dare du nani duri so om dare du nani duri so ha. Om tare du nare du re so om dare du nare du re so om dare du nare du re so om dare du nare du re so ha. Om tare du nare du re so om dare du nare du re so om dare du nare du re so om dare du nare du re so ha. Now let us bring our experience of the interpersonal into the path of love and letting go. May all relationships of all beings so be as joyful and loving as a real or imagined Buddhist communication symbolized by this 10-syllable mantra. Om tare du nare du re so om dare du nare du re so om dare du nare du re so om dare du nare du re so ha. Om tare du nare du re so om dare du nare du re so om dare du nare du re so om dare du nare du re so ha. Om dare du nare du re so 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 ha. Om dare du nare du re so 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 ha. Now let's bring our experience of the physical into the path of love and letting go. May all bodies of all beings now enjoy the beautiful health depicted in Buddhist art of the blissful body of a Yidam floor and archetype of enlightenment. Om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so ha. Om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so ha. Om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so Let's bring our experience of the circumstantial into the path of love and letting go. May all circumstances or lots of all beings now have their safety, good fortune, and boon, as a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, spirit land or Vanti. Om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so ha. Om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so ha. Om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so ha. Om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so ha. So, as promised, we've now come to the second half of our mantra meditation. The first half focused on love and letting go. The second half is focusing on awareness and letting go. And now we're going to answer the question, how is our circumstance like the circumstance of the archetype of enlightened activity. We're going to begin by silently and mentally, so let's try this again. We're going to begin by chanting a rhetorical question. How is it that as we inhale, all circumstances could appear quite vivid? Un momento. How is it that as we inhale, all circumstances or thoughts could appear quite vivid? Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as not graspable as a real or imagined paradise or body of light. And now we're going to take that same idea and reduce it down, shrink it down into something that's bite-sized. How is our circumstance like the circumstance of the archetype of enlightened activity? They are both seen, yet non-graspable. Om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so ha. Om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so ha. Om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so om da de de da de 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 so So now we bring our experience of the physical into the path of awareness and letting go. How is our experience of the physical similar to that of the archetype of enlightened activity? How is it that as we inhale, all bodies or forms could feel quite sensual? Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as non-graspable as a real or imagined archetypal yidam of light. How is our experience of the physical similar to that of the archetype of enlightened activity? Our experience of the physical is sensual, yet void. Om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so Let us bring our experience of the interpersonal into the path of awareness and letting go. How is it that as we inhale the interpersonal experience of communication, our speech could be quite resounding? Yet as we relax into our exhalation, it could feel as non-graspable as a real or imagined mantra of light. How is our experience of the interpersonal similar to that of the archetype of enlightened activity? Experience of the interpersonal is resounding yet void. Om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so om da de do da de do de so Now, at long last, let us bring our experience of the mental into the path of awareness and letting go. How is it that as we inhale, we could perceive our mind's functions quite clearly? So what is that? What are mind's functions? Well, we reviewed that previously. Mind's functions are mind can perceive, Things such as sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. Mind can also emote, intend, reason, recall, and imagine together. How is it that as we inhale we could perceive all mind functions quite clearly? Yet as we relax into our exhalation, they could feel as non-graspable as a real or imagined seed-suitable time of light. How is our mind, how is our experience of the mental, similar to the mental experience of the archetype of enlightened activity? Both our minds are clear, lucid, yet void. This is this evening's final mantra meditation, so do make it count. Dare du dare du re so om 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 dare du dare du re so to seal this evening's practice with a bit of the old well-wishing. May all the common and supreme attainments of magical powers and full enlightenment be lavish upon us sentient beings and myself. Through our recitation and meditation, may our sickness, poverty, and warfare be completely pacified. And may all dharma and good omens be all pervasive. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 2/3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow's early meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.